Okay, let's get this party started. Well, just wait for people to file on in, I suppose. Um, Maybe that's what I should have titled the stream. Let's get this party started. Nah, that's too cliche. Well, things are just kind of hence the title of the stream. Hello, EcoPunk, how you doing? Hello, Robert. Uh, like always, nothing substantial going on in my life. Besides, I started doing I recently started counseling, talk therapy, because in recent weeks my depression has been very, very bad, like terrible. Not to the point where I'd harm myself or anything. Just to make that perfectly clear. But no, like depression, loneliness, anxiety. It all just like kind of I don't know hit kind of a breaking point, you know. And yeah, I'm doing talk therapy now. Haven't been in therapy since high school. It may get to a point where I see a psychiatrist and maybe take medication for anxiety or depression or whatever they feel I'd benefit from, but that's still further down the road. And we'll see if it even gets to that point where that is a serious consideration. But it does feel like a weight on my chest, off my chest, every session. I've only had 2 sessions so far. One solo session and one session with my mother for my therapist to like get a better feel of my depression and anxiety with like the aid of like an outsider's perspective or another perspective in general. Someone who lives with me and knows what I'm like in my day-to-day life and maybe might um you know mention things about my anxiety and depression that I haven't even considered. That was pretty. That was the other day, and that went pretty well. But for the most part, it's gonna be like one-on-one sessions with me and my therapist. Again, both of the times I went so far, it did feel like somewhat of a weight lifted off my chest. Obviously, that doesn't completely alleviate the depression and anxiety. Maybe as time goes by, it could, alleviate my depression and anxiety more, but we'll see. I used to be kind of hard nosed and be like, well, I've been in therapy and it never really did much for me. Well, the truth is, when I was in high school, I didn't really take therapy that seriously. I still played my cards really close to my chest and not really shared much or feel like, yeah, why the fuck do I need to talk about this? Or, yeah, the therapist doesn't even really give a shit about my problems anyway. They're just paid to give a shit. So why should I take this seriously? But no, 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 I have a different perspective now compared to back then. I meant to start this stream like 20 minutes earlier, but then I got a nosebleed. Yeah, allergies are already starting to kick in a little bit. My eyes are kind of bothering me. Not nearly as bad as when we're in the peak of pollen season. Oof, oof. Not looking forward to that. But I've noticed some like tingly sensation with my eyes, and I've been sneezing, and nosebleeds are another thing that I get, which, like I just said, I just had right as I was about to start this stream like 20 minutes ago. What luck. I'm just chilling today. That's what I do on most days. That's what Pink is doing right now. Yeah, she's with me again. And yes, I'm gonna make my bed when I finish streaming. Pink is happy. You're all right. That's good to know. Good to hear. I've been on medication since last year when I went through the worst depression I've experienced due to extreme stress. Yeah, I mean, if medication helps, it helps. I don't really get people who are so anti-medication. Like I get it, you know. Not everyone is going to respond the same to even the same medication. Like there's going to be people who say, "Oh, this medication saved my life," and then there are other people who are going to say it made everything worse. But if medication legitimately makes a positive difference in your life, I don't really see the reason in looking down on someone who relies on medication for the betterment of their mental health. Not everyone can just toughen their problems out, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Fuck that shit. And again, I might eventually go on I was about to say go on anxiety. I was probably thinking of anxiety medication, but I might, be put on medication. I don't know about relatively soon, but someday maybe. If again, it ultimately depends. Like if it gets to the point where see a psychiatrist, and then the psychiatrist is like, you know, you would probably benefit from uh being put on medication, and that's an avenue I'm willing to explore. You know, obviously there's risks, but who knows? I go to therapy every 2 weeks. I don't I don't really have a set schedule just yet. I first met with my therapist this past Saturday, and then I had another appointment on Wednesday, and I think it might be every Wednesday, but we'll see. My therapist said he might have some appointments. Some appointment times he can meet with me before then. Again, we'll see. How you get on therapy with a waiting list? Well, I wasn't put on any waiting list, I don't think. I reached out to a wellness center that's right by my house, and they took my insurance, and I contacted them. I gave them my phone number and my email, and I think they got back to me within like a week. So maybe I was put on a waiting list, but I didn't wait that long. I got my cat Maxwell sitting on my bed too. It's funny, Pink doesn't usually stay in my bed unless it's to look out my window, but when I'm streaming, she likes to sit next to me, almost like she knows what I'm doing and wants to participate. I think she might be sleeping, but still. I would pet her, but I don't want to disturb her. It has overall helped a lot. The medication is called Lexapro. That's an antidepressant, right? Yeah, my stroke victim uncle takes Lexapro. That's one of the several different um, medications he takes. Medication has helped with my uncle a lot, um, not just with his physical ailments like his diabetes, but which he should have been fucking taking before he had the stroke, but can't change the past now. But he's also on antidepressants and anxiety medications. And I remember when he first came back here after he was discharged from the facility, he was in over a year ago. It was really bad. Like he was very erratic, very his anxiety was just off the charts. He was calling the ambulance and calling us all the time. It was very, very hard. But then we finally were able to put him on the medication that he was on in the rehabilitation center he was in. And it took a few weeks to finally kick in. That's what the doctor already told us. I think the Lexapro specifically takes a while to kick in. I could be wrong, but it calmed him down tremendously. Like there are days where he doesn't like bother us at all. Not to say he's a burden or anything, but he's not he's not paranoid. He's not anxiety ridden. He's calm, which is how he preferably. I mean, he still has his bad days, of course, but overall, he's nowhere near how he was when he first came back here. And I mean, that's not to say like his depression and anxiety has entirely gone away. I mean, how could it when you're in his situation? You had a major stroke, half of your body just doesn't function. You're gonna be in a bed for the rest of your life. I mean, we recently were able to get him a motorized wheelchair that his insurance covered, and that chair would have otherwise costed like 20,000 fucking dollars. He went out the other day with his home attendant. They went to a McDonald's, and as far as I know, that went fine. Hello, all. Hello, Big Jerry. How you doing? If you do go on medication, I hope it helps for you. Again, it's nothing is set in stone right now. I may take medication someday. I may not, but if it gets to that point, I do really hope it helps because God fucking damn, my anxiety and depression has gotten so fucking bad. Oh, I'm doing good. You already answered that. Well, that's good that you're doing good. Oh, Pink just woke up. Just looking at something. Oh, no, she's not anymore. You okay? I guess she's fine. I first went on medication in 2019, and then 2024, my anxiety started getting worse due to certain things going on. And I asked the psychiatrist to update my medication, but she didn't do shit. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, unfortunately, mental health professionals, they can be hit or miss. You could get a really good one, or you could get one that doesn't give a shit at all. I mean, thankfully, my therapist, the one I'm seeing now, is really good. I mean, obviously, he can't prescribe me any medication. He's not a psychiatrist, but um, he's caring. He's nice. There was some anxiety going in prior to starting therapy, like, oh, what if I don't open up? What if the therapist is judgmental? Or like I get the sense that he's judgmental and that makes me afraid to open up to him. But pretty much right off the bat, he was a very, easygoing, nice person. You could tell he cares. And that made me comfortable in his presence pretty much right away. He's not that much older than me either. He also has a little like group therapy thing that he calls like a men's club that has uh that has several guys that are around my age that suffer similar issues to me, like anxiety, depression, and all that. And I'm seriously considering giving that a shot. It's group therapy, like I just said. Not exactly comfortable with doing that just yet. I'm probably gonna give it a few more sessions, me solo with just him before I try doing that because group therapy sounds kind of intimidating to me, but I mean, it's an opportunity to meet other people with similar issues to me, so I'm definitely receptive to doing that relatively soon. It was the night of March 30th, 2025 when the real nightmare began. Are you comfortable with saying what that nightmare was? I mean, understandable if you're not, but she wanted to send me to a neurologist instead, but that's not what I needed at all. Just a stronger dose of medication like I have now. Well, again, I'm glad the medication is working for you. I've read plenty about medication online. Um, a lot of polarizing responses, again, ranging from this medication saved my life to this medication made everything so much worse. And I mean that's the reality of taking medication for your mental health. I mean, my therapist kind of put it perfectly that you can't like stick a thermometer in you and be able to measure how much anxiety you have, how much depression you have, and know exactly what type of medication will work best for you. It's a crapshoot. That's those were his words. It's a crapshoot. It could work tremendously, but it also could not. In fact, it could actually be pretty bad. And there's also like the issue of, you could get hooked on the medication and all that. And I do have a history of addiction, more particularly in my father's side of the family, so there's that risk factor as well. And with the old psychiatrist I had, I think she seemed to blame me for the things I told her going on in my life. Yeah, again, I mean, like I said, unfortunately, mental health professionals, or really, medical professionals in general, it can be very hit or miss. Not to disparage, psychiatrists or, medical professionals in general, but, it can be very hit or miss. Like, again, some can genuinely give a shit and, actually, help you. And there are others that just can't give a shit less or are just really nasty and, you know, overall just not the kind of person who should be treating other people's mental health issues or, at the very least talking to people about their mental health issues. That was the night the severe depression episode started, truly one of the worst things I've ever experienced. I kind of have a similar um story, I suppose. Like it literally just a few weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, one night my depression just got so fucking bad. I don't even know what triggered it. It was just I just came to a fucking breaking point, like, I started having these feelings like I'm wasting my life, wasting youth, and, these feelings like I should be more further ahead than I am now, than I really am, you know? Just overall feelings of worthlessness I was just really wrestling with, and I do feel a little better now, but I do still have days where, the depression just gets too fucking much to bear. What do you think of sleeping pills or medication? Well, I've never needed sleeping pills. Um, So, I mean, with me personally, I have no experience with sleeping pills, but if one needs sleeping pills to sleep, then I mean, if it helps, it helps. Don't really have much else to say besides that. Well, I have taken melatonin a few times. I never had melatonin for myself, but we have like some in the cabinet, and there have been times where I just couldn't fucking fall asleep, and I would take that, and it was usually pretty effective. Speaking of my father, we kicked him out last month after my mom got home from cancer rehab. There was one time he tried to attack me with a metal cart and stole my credit card to buy alcohol. Sounds like a shitbag. I'm very sorry you have to deal with someone like that. Well, maybe not anymore since you kicked him out, but just sorry you have someone like that in your life. And as a father, I mean, my father, I mean, I have a positive relationship with him now, but I still do kind of have these feelings of resentment over him not being there in my childhood because maybe he would have given me that extra push to like put myself out there more and take more risks, which maybe would have alleviated anxiety a bit. And maybe I would be at least a little further than I am now in life. My father is someone who is, really extroverted and, you know, someone who when I was a kid would really push me to do things I was uncomfortable doing and helping me realize, all the nerves in my head just made something that I didn't want to do seem much worse than it really is. And that did help me a little bit. But, my father had a whole host of issues. He still has a whole host of issues, but he's a little better now than he was back in my childhood. You know, issues with addiction. He was not a good partner at all towards my mother, and he was in prison for a time. I'm not going to say what he did. That's none of the internet's business, but overall he was someone who was not fit to be a good father. He's someone who I think of as more of a friend, which is unfortunate. Like, I really do wish he would have gotten his shit together and stepped up and, be there for me and during crucial years, but you can't change the past. I absolutely hate those "you're behind" feelings. I've actually been told that before. It sickens me. I can live life however I want. Yeah, not to mention there's like so much societal pressure that by a certain age you need to have all of this shit figured out. You need to have a stable job. You need to do this, you need to do that. And if you're at least just a little behind, a lot of society kind of like shuns you for not being further ahead. Not to say I really experienced that. I mean, I have a very understanding family and I have friends who, either, are understanding or hell even relate to my feelings. But, it's really just mostly internal for me and what I've observed from society. I have a job, an online only job that I don't have like a set schedule for, so I can pretty much work on my own time, but it's not like a job that I can like live off of forever. I just have these feelings like I should have settled with something more stable by now, but then you look at this fucking job market and how competitive it is, how much it's shrinking, how much of it is being just automated away to AI. You're given all these expectations you're expected to live up to, but so many things in society are holding you back from living up to those expectations, but then it's somehow your fault, and it just sucks, and it brings about a lot of stress and anxiety for me. Yep, he used to be a good guy, but these past 3 years have been ridiculous for me and my mother. Can't wait till we move out of here because he still harasses us. Hopefully you're able to get away from him. Yeah, I have pretty bad memories of my father and my mother screaming at each other and arguing, and there'd be times where, we'd be home and he would call her, and then they get into this huge fucking screaming match over I don't even remember. Seeing shit like that as a kid. I mean, they've never like hit each other or anything. It never got to that level, but even just like the screaming, really, it really affected me as a kid seeing your parents like that. They apologize for that now, for me having to witness that, but, it was still I think that's pretty much why I'm so sensitive when it comes to people yelling at me. I think I made a video about that in, like, 2015 or some shit about, not being able to handle well when people scream at me, which is not often. Thankfully, I'm not one to, like, make people get so mad at me to the point where they scream at me on a regular basis or anything, but even if someone gets, like, really stern, even if I deserve it, like, there have been times where I've pissed people off, and, them getting mad at me really affects me, but then I'm like, "I kinda had it coming." But, it's enough to, like, really ruin my day because I just dwell on what they say to me and how they said it. And then I think, it reminds me of when my mom and my dad would really go at it and scream at each other and how much that scared me as a kid to witness. I think there are studies where, kids witnessing their parents fighting regularly, like, does have a serious impact on their mental health even going into adulthood. Sup, dude? Hello, shy guy. How you doing? I had to put up with my dad's bullshit for almost 2 months while my mom was in the hospital slash rehab. It's too bad your dad was pulling all the bullshit he was during such a vulnerable or like very tumultuous time. I suppose. Your mother is battling cancer and in a rehabilitation center, and your dad is still pulling all the bullshit you're saying he is. Well, thankfully, my mom and dad never ended up getting married. Their relationship was toxic as hell already, just as a normal relationship. Thankfully, it never. I mean, they were engaged at some point. I think they got engaged around. I think my mom told me Christmas of 2001, so after I was born, and that was around the time my mother got pregnant again with my would-be sister, who ended up being miscarried, unfortunately. I don't know if I've ever shared that on this channel. I think I might have. But yeah, I almost had a sister. I almost wasn't an only child. She would have been a year younger than me. I've been able to support myself with my current job. I'm not a millionaire, but that's fine. most people aren't millionaires so long as you're making enough to sustain yourself or sustain yourself and whoever else you may live with, then that's fine. Unfortunately, that's well, I mean, I make a decent amount of money. I was going to say like I don't make enough to sustain myself, but at least in my current living situation, where I still live at home and I don't have a whole bunch of bills. I mean, I do pay some of the bills, but like we split bills, and It's not like the financial burden I would have if I lived by myself. That's what I'm saying. But you know, again, like the amount of money I make is not enough to like live off of. Like if I was living independently in fucking NYC, what is this? Isn't this the most expensive city in the country? Or is that LA? I forget, honestly. Living up to people's standards is impossible, to be fair. Well, yeah, I mean that's kind of the irrationality of it. You constantly like compare yourself to other people and put yourself you place yourself to these standards that you can't live up to and acknowledge that you can't live up to, and you try to think it's okay, but your brain is just telling you that it's not okay and you have to live up to these standards or else you're a failure. Well, that's how it is in my head, at least. Sometimes I wish I was born as a cat. you know, I think Pink wants to leave. Pink, she doesn't have any expectations placed on her. She doesn't have any anxiety or depression. Not that I know of, at least, but she's a pretty happy cat. She has everything taken care of. She's got no worries in her life. Really wish I could say the same. Well, hang on a second. I'll let her out. Yeah, my mom came home and I think Pink wanted to see her. My mom got back from her first therapy session. She's going to the same center I'm going to. Not seeing the same guy. She's seeing another therapist that works there, a woman. She decided she would benefit from therapy as well. She tried to tell my dad at one point, me and Rob will not be here forever, so you need to figure something out. And they've had horrible arguments too. Well, I'm kind of glad that my father doesn't like, isn't. Well, I mean, I don't think I'm happy that he's not around, but like I'm happy he's not around in the sense that him and my mother are not like screaming at each other like they used to. I remember a few years ago, actually, he called my mother. A little bit after I reestablished contact with him, him and my mom started speaking again, not just as friends. But one time he called her asking for money, I think, and she just fucking blew a gasket. She was screaming at him. It brought me back to childhood when I would hear her scream at him like that. And that was the last time they ever spoke to each other. Don't think they plan on speaking to each other again. I mean, they probably will at some point, but you know, just as, like in the sense that, they're my parents. So not like, interacting with each other in the sense that they're like on friendly terms or even romantic terms, which that's never gonna happen again. There were times when my dad would go into a drunken rage and attack us, and sometimes I'd go into a serious rage, making my mom worried for my sanity. Fuck. Yeah, my father suffered, well, still suffers with substance abuse issues, and one of those substances includes alcohol. My father was on top of being a chain smoker, was a big alcoholic in my childhood years, and yeah, there'd be times where I'd see him as like a bitter drunk. It's not It's not good to witness stuff like that as a kid. Not at all. And that's a big reason as to why I just refuse to drink alcohol. No interest in drinking beer or wine or any alcoholic beverage. I mean, I've had a sip of wine before at like parties and shit. Didn't really care for it. I forget what type of wine it was specifically, but yeah, take it or leave it. I mean, there have been plenty of times where I've been to like, parties with friends back in my high school years, and I mean, we were smoking pot, and there was alcohol there and shit, and other substances too that I won't get into on YouTube. But I would only ever smoke the weed. Like I was pretty hard line. Like this is the furthest I will go. I'm not drinking anything aside from like the soda that was there, and I'm not even a soda drinker, but only beverages there for the most part. Sure as hell not doing anything harder than weed. Anytime anything was offered to me, I'd be like, no, thank you. No, thank you. So, I mean, I'm proud of myself for that. I'm pretty strong willed, never gave in to peer pressure outside of smoking weed because I've seen firsthand what addiction is like and how it can, pretty much cripple you. And, even as a teenager, I was like, yeah, not gonna fucking play around with that. The other kids at the party want to get all fucked up, then that's their prerogative, but not me. Yeah, I can relate to not liking people uh, yelling at me. I usually go silent, though, when it happens, though sometimes I feel stronger emotions. Yeah, I mean, I really don't like it when someone yells at me, even if I do. When reflecting back to the situation, if I deserved it. Yeah, getting yelled at really fucking sucks. I very rarely yell at people. I can be pretty irritable, admittedly, but I'm more like, I start talking in like an annoyed tone. I don't like start flying off the handle and start screaming at people. Partially because I know what it's like to get screamed at and how much it fucking sucks, and I'd rather not put someone else through that. But yeah, that's probably another thing I should work on, my irritability. I tend to get annoyed at people pretty easily. I mean, I have some days are better than others. There are days where I'm not very irritable, and there are other days where I'd like just snap at someone for a very inconsequential reason and then like regret it almost immediately after. It's always so funny whenever people online tell me how chill I am supposedly. Like it's like if you met me in real life, you would not be saying that. How you been, man? I've been okay. I mean, better than I was even like a week and a half ago when my depression and anxiety was really, really fucking bad for like a week straight or over a week. But today is all right. Pretty gloomy day. It's been breezy again. I've noticed the weather has gotten a little chilly again after a few days of it being in the 60s and 70s. I was really liking that weather, and plus the sun was out, and a daylight savings happened just recently. Now we have more sunlight, so that was nice. I mean, even though I do like the time change when it gets darker earlier and we gain an hour, I still like that time change more. But I'll be honest, I do on some level welcome the daylight savings time change because it's a switch up. It gets darker at a later time. You get more sunlight. The days are longer. Well, shorter actually, but I mean like, day as in, the sun is out. Especially during the summer when it doesn't get dark until like fucking 8 o'clock at night. Ugh, I'm glad that that string of brutally cold days like we had in late January and much of February is gone though. That was terrible. Like, especially since it happened, like, right after a fucking snowstorm here in New York City. It took so long for all of that snow to melt, but now it's all pretty much gone. But, yeah, that sucked. And then we had another snowstorm a few weeks ago, but the snow melted much quicker since, again, we didn't have a string of days where it was, like, so brutally fucking cold. I hated that. There were days where it went into the negatives, I think. Ugh, or at least it felt like it was in the negatives. I think there were some days where it was only like 10 degrees, but I would see on my phone it says it actually feels like negative 20 or some shit. And I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. Even just opening up my window, I get this fucking blast of extremely cold air, and I was like, ugh, no. And I would close the window immediately. Yeah, this winter, the cold has not been kind at all. I still take that though over the miserable fucking humidity we usually get in the summer though. At least when it was so brutally cold, I could just have my windows closed and we have the heat on. So everything was fine. I still slept perfectly fine. In the summer, when we don't have AC on, yeah, you could open all the windows up in your house, have all the fans you want running. It still feels so fucking terrible with the humidity. And plus, when it's really humid out, I can't sleep, like, at all. There are some days where before you put on our air conditioner, like in May or some shit, there are some days where I just don't sleep. Maybe I get like an hour of sleep at most, or 2 hours, or maybe 3 hours, but that's it. Last year wasn't so bad because we turned on the AC pretty quickly last year, but I remember 2024, like around late May, there were like a string of days where I just hardly got any sleep because the humidity was so bad. We didn't have the AC on. I think there were some days where it was like 11 p.m. and I still had yet to fall asleep because I just couldn't go to sleep because it was so hot in my room. Really do really hope that doesn't happen this year, but we'll see. Unfortunately, that happens most years when it gets really hot. Discord notification. Someone reacted to your. Whatever. Another thing, the cops and EMTs would have to come here all the time to bring him to the hospital when he was so drunk. I had to answer to them twice when my mom was gone. There were a couple of times where my uncle, before he was medicated, when he was brought back here from the rehabilitation facility, he would call 911 pretty regularly because like any little thing that would happen to him or at the very least what he felt like was happening to him would, you know, prompt him to call 911. And a couple of times the EMTs came, and there were a few times where my uncle and my mom would be at work, and so I had to let my and so I would have to let the EMTs in. And usually they wouldn't take him because they were able to assess that it was just his anxiety acting up. But there were a couple of times where they would take him and he wouldn't be discharged from the hospital until like very, very late at night. So it usually had to be me who let him in and then put him in his bed. But thankfully, that hasn't happened in a long time. Again, my uncle's anxiety is pretty under control now with the medication he's taking. Same with his depression. Have you heard and seen the American Chopper TV shows? I have never heard of that. Sorry. Need to go, but we'll join for longer next stream. See you next stream. See ya. Hope you enjoyed your stay. Even though you're probably already gone by now. Oh, there's 6 people here. Oh, thought I was talking to like 2 people. I can be very irritable as well. There have been times where I've screamed and gone into a severe rage, like when I found out my dad stole my credit card for his addiction. Well, that's a very justified reason to be angry. There have been times where I've gotten really angry for pretty inconsequential things. Again, I'm not the type to like scream at people, and certainly not the type to hit people. When I get angry and I feel like hitting someone, I just hit myself usually, or like a pillow or the table. But yeah, I mean, the littlest things can like really set me off, and I fucking hate that. Like there have been times where I've been called an asshole, and you know, it's funny. I used to like pride myself on being called that back when I was a teenager on this channel. And I mean, I don't really care when someone on the internet calls me an asshole because I mean, I make rand videos and I'm very opinionated, so that kind of comes with the territory. I'm not saying it's not good at all to like, on some level not care what other people think, but like when someone says that in real life and especially when they have good reason to say that, yeah, um it can really fuck with me. But yeah, like I said, it's funny. Like I've been told by some people, like usually online friends, "Oh, you're pretty chill." And I'm like, "Thanks," but in real life, I'm really not. And I think when I'm in public, I have that straight face on. People may look at me and think, "Don't fuck with that guy." Well, I don't know if people really get that impression from me. I don't like my resting face isn't really a face that signifies don't fuck with that person. I don't think, at least. I'm not a very intimidating person or an intimidating looking person. I've never really thought about how others perceive me, like in the sense that, I could just be like sitting and doing nothing or like just have like a blank expression on my face and like think, oh, what if people think the wrong thing about my neutral expression? Not to say that's what you think, but that's something I've personally never really thought about. It's getting kind of dark in here. There we go. Actually, let me fuck around with the light settings. There we go. Well, it's changing colors, but I don't think the camera really picks it up all that well. It kind of does. Eh, it would have to be darker outside for the camera to pick that up better, but whatever. Maybe I should just put it back to normal and maybe like a lighter color as red. No, blue. You can kind of see that. All right, just regular light it is. The winter was crazy. Those few warm days were great. I know they were great. Like one day this week or at least one day was in the 70s and I loved it. I actually felt kind of sweaty wearing my wearing my long pants. I actually put on shorts. It was nice. You see, I would love weather like that all year round where it's not too hot, not too cold, just a perfect balance. No extreme cold in the winter, no brutal heat in the summer. Just again, perfectly balanced. That's how I love it. But unfortunately, with the beautiful weather also comes my allergies and oh, that's the one big drawback of spring. Like spring would otherwise be such a perfect season if it weren't for my allergies that usually kick my ass every single year. It's like, oh, just my luck. Perfect weather, perfect everything. But there's the one caveat where pollen completely fucking kicks her ass. I'm looking forward to summer. I think it'll be better this year than last year. What, do you have anything going on in the summer, or do you mean like the weather? I never really look forward to any season. Not that I'm like actively like, oh, I don't want this season to begin or anything. It's just like more like, whatever. Spring is about to begin. Eh. I haven't really given a shit about summer since when I was in school because, summer vacation. That was like the only thing about summer I looked forward to. But, even then, like after 2 weeks of just sitting at home, not doing fucking anything, I'm like, eh, I wouldn't mind going back to school, getting back into a routine because I never did anything with my summers. And now as an adult, with no summer vacation, unfortunately, in adulthood, I'm just like, ugh, summer, ugh. because of the fucking humidity that I usually get here. We usually get here. And also the bugs come out, and last year my kitchen had like an ant infestation. It was fucking terrible. Like usually it's either my room or my uncle's room that gets a bunch of ants and then we have to call an exterminator. But this time it was the kitchen. We found ants in the fucking cabinets and then we had to take everything out and we called Terminex and Terminex was like, "Okay, in like a few days we'll send someone to your house." And then for whatever reason they had to delay a week. So we had to go like a week without with everything in boxes in the dining room. We got ant traps too that didn't do anything at all. But yeah, the exterminator did eventually come, and then we didn't have an ant problem anymore. Thank God. But that's another problem we have during the summer. You know, the bugs come out and the ants come out, and fucking hate bugs. Hello, Mikey and Chad. Hello, Aaron. How are you doing? How are all the 5 people watching this doing? For me, it depends on what mood I'm in. Sometimes I can be chill and social. Other times I don't want to talk to anyone. Yeah, I can feel that. There are times where, you know, I am more chill, and that makes me a more social person, more eager to talk to someone. Like a lot of the times when I'm with my friends, I'm usually in that mood, that more chill mood, and I mean, being in the presence of other people can also uplift my mood quite a bit, especially in like, you know, a friendly setting with, you know, obviously a bunch of your friends. But there are days where, you know, I'm more irritable and I don't want to talk to people and I'd rather just be left alone, and then someone tries talking to me and I'm like, no, don't bother me, leave me alone. Maybe I don't, well, I don't literally say that, but you know, that's kind of the tone I give off. Like fuck off. I don't want to hear I don't, you know, I don't want to bother with you right now. And again, I usually do feel like the biggest asshole ever. Um, right after, especially if the person says something, you know, makes some kind of remark saying, "All right, fine," or, you know, I get the impression that I offended them, which, you know, fair enough. If I'm being an asshole towards them, and then I just feel like shit. I mean, not to like beg for sympathy or anything, because in instances like those, reactions like that are absolutely warranted. But yeah, my mood can greatly impact whether or not I want to be social. Again, on my bad days, I usually just want to be left alone. I don't want people talking to me. And then there are good days where I do want to talk to people. You know, it's all like intertwined. I like how after a long winter, when it starts getting warm, it puts me in a good mood. Yeah, I've said this before, the weather can impact how my mood is. I mean, not greatly or anything. There are plenty of times where it's like an ugly, rainy, disgusting day and I'm having a pretty good day because there are other factors that play into my day being good that have nothing to do with the weather. But, you know, on average, gloomy days can really like bring my mood down quite a bit because I like seeing the sun. I like seeing the blue sky. I like it when it's a beautiful day overall because that makes me more eager to go out. Not always necessarily to do something, because but sometimes I do like walking around my block, and that's enough to like, oh, not to like put me in a permanent good mood for the rest of the day, but enough to like uplift my spirits for at least a little bit, you know? Especially if I'm having like a particularly shitty day and it happens to be a beautiful day outside, I just go outside and walk around and, just kind of forget about my troubles for a bit, take in the fresh air, or as fresh as the air can be at a place like NYC, full of the fucking cars and factories and shit, fucking the air up. Ugh. I usually also like listening to music while I walk, unless I have to like cross the street or some shit. Then obviously I'm taking my headphones off for that. But I've noticed, walking around while listening to music can also like put me in a better mood. Even like when I'm in a store shopping around, pushing the cart around, and I usually have earbuds in because stores can, tend to make me really anxious with all those people around, and music provides a comfort. And, I just kind of like walking around like while listening to music puts me in a somewhat better mood than I may be that I might have been, before. My cat would always help me find ants by pawing at them. It's nice that your cat does that. Pink is a bug killer. She likes to eat. I remember during the summer she ate quite a few centipedes and spiders. I don't get spiders all that much, but centipedes we usually do get in the summer. And I think I made a video about this a long time ago, but I hate centipedes. They fucking like irk me, and they're I am kind of scared of them. I'll admit, not like deathly afraid of them, like I have a serious phobia or anything, but like if I see one, I'm like, ugh, you know, especially if it's a really big one. Ooh. I remember a few years ago, there was this huge centipede that was by the staircase downstairs, and I was the only one down there, so I had to kill it. And then I took a napkin and I squashed it, or so I thought. I was walking towards the trash can, about to throw out the napkin, and then I felt something crawling up my hand. I was like, "Oh, what the fuck?" And I fucking threw the napkin, and it took me so long to go back and get it. And I did. I threw it out. I don't know if the centipede was still on it. It had to have been gravely injured though, because I did squish it, but I don't think it died completely yet. Maybe it was on the verge of dying. Charlie wasn't much of a bug killer though. Every time a bug would be around him, he would just kind of like nudge himself away. Or like I remember a few times we had mice in the house, and my cat Timmy, who unfortunately passed away back in August, she was, or he was rather. No, Timmy was a girl. I was confusing him with Charlie. Yeah, Timmy. She had the name Timmy, but she was a girl. Um, but yeah, she was much more of a bug killer than Charlie was. I remember even if an ant would go by Charlie, he would like nudge his paw away, like, "Ooh, don't touch me." But I remember we had mice on a few occasions, and usually Timmy would be the one to kill them. But there were a few times where Charlie would like try to play with the with the mouse, thinking it was like a toy, and would even like try to shoo Timmy away, like, "Ooh, get away from my toy." And Charlie wouldn't even try to kill it, just kind of like play with it a little. I miss Charlie and Timmy. Oh, and my cat Theo, my orange cat that I don't know if I ever showed him off on this channel. He wasn't really that close to me. Much more close to my uncle. Same with Timmy, but more so with Theo. I pet Theo. I was affectionate towards him, but he never really hung around with me. But my cat Theo passed away back in January. Completely unexpected too. Like one day his body just gave out, kind of like with Debbie and Charlie. Timmy, unfortunately, was a lot more slow. Her body was shutting down, and my uncle made the decision to euthanize her because at that point that was the only humane thing left to do. In her last few weeks, like her back legs kind of gave out. She was still able to walk, but very slowly, and she couldn't jump anymore. And then eventually, she wasn't eating anymore or drinking anything, and overall, she was just going really downhill very quickly. And my uncle brought her into the vet, and the vet was like, "Yeah, there's really nothing you could do at this point besides euthanize her." And he did. He didn't stay with her though when she was getting euthanized, which I don't really agree with. Like, best to comfort your pet as much as you can in their final moments than them being scared in a room full of strangers and then all of a sudden everything just goes black, but whatever. His cat, his choice. Let me change my position. Lincoln Park. This is actually a new shirt. Hybrid Theory. One of the two Lincoln Park albums I really enjoy. Well, I've said it before. I've listened to Hunting Party and bleh, One More Night. One More Light. I mean, not One More Night. See, I don't even remember the album's title. Clearly, how much I really don't care for that album. But no, I like Hunting Party quite a bit, but I'm more partial to the first two. In the end, it doesn't really matter. Doesn't even matter. So far, so good. Well, that's good. At least you seem to be doing better than I am, presumably. I still have yet to listen to the latest Linkin Park album, the one with Emily Armstrong. I probably should. Her Scientology ties aside, or at least past Scientology ties. I mean, her coming to the defense of that one Scientologist actor dude that got convicted of rape was kind of gross, though. And that wasn't that long ago, if I remember correctly. Ugh. It's a shame though, because I listened to the concert they did, the live show they did a little bit before they released their new album, and she killed it with the old Chester songs. Really good vocalist. I'm glad they didn't just go with someone that just emulated Chester and sounded like him. They went with someone who, you know, has the energy to really carry those old songs, but at the same time, bring their own spin to the table. I have heard good things about the new album though, so maybe I should listen to it eventually. I mean, if none of the Scientology stuff came out, or preferably if she wasn't a Scientologist, I probably would have heard the album by now. Chester's birthday is coming up. Speaking of Lincoln Park, March 20th. He shares the same birthday as me, exactly a week from now. I don't remember how old he would be if he were still alive, but happy early posthumous birthday to him. It's still surreal that he's gone. Like, I remember hearing the news of his death, and I was like, "Whoa, fuck, really?" I mean, I wasn't a huge Linkin Park fan back then, and I'm still not a huge Linkin Park fan now. I do like them a little bit more now than I did back then, though. But still, um, that was just kind of like a shock to me. I was like, "Oh fuck, wow!" Chester Bennington died, killed himself. Same thing with Chris Cornell earlier that year. They only died a few months apart from each other. That hit me a lot harder because I was already a huge Soundgarden fan when uh when uh when Chris Cornell killed himself. I remember finding out like the morning after. I was getting ready for school, and then I remember hearing from my mom's TV because she used to watch the Today Show every morning. She would have that blasting from her room. And then I heard something about Chris Cornell, and I didn't really hear what they were saying exactly. I just heard the name Chris Cornell, and I was like, they better not be reporting on his death. And then I look up on my phone, Chris Cornell, and then a whole bunch of articles saying he died. And I was like, ah, fuck, wow. Now it's just Eddie Vedder that's left of the big grunge bands of the 90s. Kurt Cobain, Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, Scott Weiland, if you want to count Stone Temple Pilots as well, though they went in a pretty different direction after their first album. Yeah, and they all died relatively young, especially Kurt and Lane. Sometimes when I'm irritable, listening to loud metal music can help. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that a lot. Listening to like loud, aggressive music can really help when you're in a shitty mood. That's what I do sometimes. Put on a Put on some really heavy, aggressive music. Again, music is something that, can really soothe me, especially when I'm in like situations where my anxiety is like really, really high. Like I said just before, like even when I'm just in the store and I'm, around a whole bunch of people and that makes me really anxious and I start to sweat and I put on music. I put on my headphones and listen to music and that usually calms my nerves quite a bit. It's a source of comfort. How do you feel about this bipolar weather? It's sunny and now it's raining. Well, for me, it's not raining. It looks like it's about to rain, though. It's all cloudy, and the clouds are pretty gray. Again, I'm just glad the fucking brutal cold is over with. Like where I am, it was so cold for like, what, a week and a half, 2 weeks straight, right after we had a major snowstorm. And thanks to that brutal cold we faced for an extended period of time, the snow didn't melt for a while. It all turned into ice, and I remember being out there multiple days shoveling or even breaking the ice that accumulated in front of our house that the snow turned into. One of my neighbors, though, had an ice pick, and she let me use it in front of my house, so that was a big help. The best songs on the album were Two Faced, Overflow, Heavy is the Crown, The Emptiness Machine. Yeah, that's it's Linkin Park's latest album, right? Again, I might listen to it. Who knows? Very, very basic as fuck opinion, but Hybrid Theory is my favorite of the Linkin Park albums I've heard. I've become so numb. Yes, I know that's Meteora. You don't need to correct me. Super Unknown is amazing. Got into it a couple of years ago. Super Unknown is a fucking great album. My favorite Soundgarden album, definitely. A lot of people, say Bad Motorfinger, but my favorite is Super Unknown. It's just banger after banger. Great double album. There's something I wanted to say, but I completely forget what the fuck it was. I had the Today Show on the morning Cornell died too. It was when I was in eighth grade. I was in high school in 10th grade when he passed away, or when he killed himself. I was already, like I said, I was already a big Soundgarden fan. Already heard Super Unknown and Bad Motorfinger, and I don't think I listened to their whole discography by then. I think I only had a few albums I didn't listen to by that point, but I already knew I loved Soundgarden. I think it was Chris Cornell's death that made me listen to the remainder of the Soundgarden albums I hadn't listened to by that point. But already, like, those were two albums. Those two albums I already loved since childhood. My father imported those albums along with many, 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 many other albums onto my computer when I was a child. I prefer the old Linkin Park. Hybrid Theory will always be my favorite album from them. Yeah, I've seen people say that. I've seen some people have the opinion that Linkin Park fell off after Meteora when they stopped doing new metal for the most part. I mean, at the very least, I like Hunting Party, but I know that was kind of a somewhat of a one-off album. Definitely their heaviest since Meteora, because I know for the most part after Meteora they really um softened up their sound. But yeah, again, basic as fuck opinion, I know, and I don't care. But Hybrid Theory is my favorite Linkin Park album, at least out of the ones I've heard. Oh, I missed some messages. Chester would have been 50 this year. He has the same birthday as my apartment superintendent, too. So that means your superintendent has the same birthday as me, March 20th, since I share birthday with Chester. Maybe that should be more inspiration for me to finally listen to more Linkin Park albums, considering, again, me and Chester Bennington share a birthday. He would have been only 50? I thought he would have been in his mid 50s by now, at least. Younger than I thought he was. One of the best bands to play when irritable is Code Orange. I think you've brought that band up before in previous streams. I'm guessing they play heavy music. It has been quite warm here lately, but we're getting a cold blast next week. Oof. How cold? Well, it says for today and tomorrow it's gonna be pretty windy, and that tracks because it's pretty breezy today. Doesn't feel as breezy now as it was before, though. The next week, it's gonna be in the 50s for Monday and Tuesday. Then it drops all the way down to 38 Tuesday, 45 Thursday, 52 Friday. Unfortunately, no 60 or 70-degree weather. That's too bad. Also, Given Up by Linkin Park is good for irritability, too. Linkin Park, at least their heavier stuff in general, is pretty good for irritability. I don't know how basic of a take this is, but Paper Cut has always been my favorite Linkin Park song. I say basic because I'm pretty sure that's one of their biggest songs, but whatever. I don't care. If a song is good, a song is good. Doesn't matter how popular or unpopular it is. Never really got those people who seem to like only like the deep cuts of an artist or a band when even their hit songs can be very obviously good as well. W video. Which video? Well, thank you, regardless. Have you listened to Audio Slave? Surprisingly, I haven't, aside from, I'm sure, some of the hits they had that have been played on the radio and elsewhere. I think I'd have by now. I like Rage Against the Machine. I love Soundgarden. The first time I heard Linkin Park was when a friend of mine showed me them on his YouTube videos in 2014. Well, I heard of Linkin Park way before then. I, of course, knew like the big songs like In the End and Numb. For some reason, for the longest time, I only knew Numb's intro, and then when I finally heard the song and as a whole, I was like, "Oh, this song is by Linkin Park." I remember there being a lot of people after Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington died saying, "Oh, they're cowards, they're pussies," you know, because a lot of those disgusting fucks saying shit like that come out of the woodwork every time a celebrity dies by suicide. And they say very ignorant things like, "Well, they're rich and famous. What do they have to be sad about?" When depression is a chemical imbalance, it doesn't always need a specific reason to arise within a person. And I'd really wish a lot of people would stop, wrongly intertwining someone's social status and how rich they may be with their mental health when it doesn't when the two doesn't have to correlate at all. Or another great album for irritability is Valley of Death by Lionheart. I have never heard of Lionheart, I don't believe. Lows are going to be in the 30s and 20s during this cold blast. Mm. Well, for this next week, the lows are going to be in the 30s and 40s, aside from Wednesday, where the low is going to be only 25 degrees. At least on my phone, it says Wednesday is going to be the only day that's completely sunny. Monday and Tuesday, it says it's going to rain. Well, Thursday, I mean, there should be sun, partly sunny. And then Friday, it's going to rain again. But the only day where I guess there's going to be no clouds and just sun will be Wednesday. Meh. I got into boxing classes recently, and it's been stressful. I'm getting used to how things work. I'm just doing it for a month and see how much I like it. Well, if you enjoy it, stick with it, I suppose. But if it continues to be stressful and it negatively impacts you, then probably best to drop it. But again, see how it goes. At least they're trying something new, I guess. It's like to some extent me in therapy. Only started, you know, like I said, I only started therapy last Saturday. And, I've been in therapy at other points in my life, like during childhood and my teen years, but this is really the first time I'm taking therapy seriously, actually. So it is somewhat of a new experience for me. And, it's me actually doing something instead of just wallowing away in my depression and anxiety alone at home, getting no help at all. Some great audio slave songs are Coach Ice. I might be pronouncing that wrong. Like a Stone and Revelations. I think I might have heard Like a Stone, or at least the name sounds familiar. I also watched an interview with Chester's wife, Talinda. I don't know anything about his wife, never seen any interviews with her, or I don't know anything about his kids either. Didn't he have like 5 kids or some shit? Isn't there like a video of him with his family that was taken like only days before he killed himself? Remember seeing that and thinking it was pretty sad. Like those kids had no idea in just a few days how much their lives would change. But I remember a lot of people being stupid with that video saying, how could a man who seems to love his kids this much take his own life? And it's like, you don't have to be an irrational frame of mind to kill yourself. Oftentimes you're not. Have you heard of J. Cole? He makes good music. He says a lot of powerful stuff in his music. Heard of J. Cole. I have some friends who at least listened to to his stuff in high school, but I have not listened to his music myself, and I can't name a single song by him. I just know of his existence mainly through my friends. And my friends are really the only link I have to like a lot of what's popular now, especially when it comes to music. Like, there's quite a few artists that I would not know at all if it had not been from from my real life friends. For better or for worse, I don't know. So some of the music they listen to is kind of catchy and something I wouldn't like go out of my way to turn off. But then there's some other stuff that they listen to, and I'm like, "Ugh." Whatever. I actually first heard Revelations on an old Madden DS game I used to play. I can't imagine hearing a real song on a DS where it's like heavily compressed. I don't know, maybe it sounded decent, but I remember when I was a kid, I had this Iron Man DS game based on I think the first Iron Man movie, and in the credits it had Iron Man by Black Sabbath playing. It was like the real version of the song, not just a cover or like some kind of remix or whatever. And it was cool to hear that song in a DS game, but also it just sounded fucking terrible with all the compression and shit to make it work with a DS. The last song Chester ever recorded was Cross Off with Mark Morton. I didn't know that. Again, I'm a very casual Linkin Park fan. I don't really know much about the band's history and shit or Chester Bennington's personal life or any of that. I know some people online obviously who love Linkin Park, but in real life I mean I have friends who heard of Linkin Park. I remember back when Linkin Park was a big meme on the internet before Chester died. Some of my friends would joke about their songs and shit. Not really as fans, but again, because their songs were memes at the time, like, oh, the edgy kid in the back of the class who might shoot up a school or some shit. And then that all like conveniently went away right after Chester died. But I remember for a time, Linkin Park was like the butt of a lot of jokes in like the mid 2010s on the internet. And then again, that all kind of stopped after Chester died. I actually spent years trying to find the song. I've been like that with some songs I would hear in like a TV show or something, and I'd go crazy trying to look for it because for some reason I just didn't didn't use Shazam. Or if I hear a song on the radio I really like, and then I take my phone to try to find out what the song is, try to use Shazam, but oh, too late, the song ended. Oh well. I remember playing Mario Kart 7 on the 3DS with some friends in middle school. I remember always rage quitting when I lost. Good times. I would never rage quit in front of my friends. I would get frustrated, yes. I remember one of my friends had a Switch, and he would bring his Switch, and we'd play Mario Kart. Sometimes Mario Kart 8 right before class would start in the morning. That was a lot of fun. And then I remember when Smash came out, a whole bunch of friends would like huddle together like before in the cafeteria before class would start and play Smash Bros together, and sometimes I would play along. I remember during some parties, like one of my friends had still had a functioning Wii and had a copy of Melee, and like we'd go in his basement and a whole bunch of like my friends would be playing Melee together. Usually I just watch, but sometimes I join in and play. There were times I tried to Shazam cool songs on the radio, but it'd say no results. But it was because they were playing the song before it got fully released. Sometimes Shazam fucks up, like even if the song is clearly playing or playing very clearly, sometimes it still says, "Oh, can't find the song," or "No results," or "Oh, this is that we're having trouble identifying this song," and it's like nothing is obstructing the microphone. The song is still playing, you know, clearly at a good volume, but it still can't pick it up. I don't know if it's a problem with my phone. Well, I just recently got a new phone. I haven't tried Shazamming anything on this phone just yet. iPhone 17, a regular 17. The 17 is the latest iPhone, right? Not at 18. Well, I was told it's the latest, so no reason to lie about that. I also remember bringing my Switch to high school. I remember playing Mario Kart 8 with friends, and this one dude beat me, and he told me, and he told the entire school about it. Well, none of my friends were the type to go bragging to the whole school about beating someone in Mario Kart 8. I don't even think most of my school would even give a shit. So there's that too. Yeah, that was fun though, playing Mario Kart 8 with friends in the because usually I'd make it to school early before classes would start. So I would go to the cafeteria and me and my friends would sit at a table and we would all like shoot the shit, or again, like one of my friends would bring their Switch and we'd play games together. Again, usually Mario Kart 8 or after Smash released, it was usually that. I had one friend who got a Switch pretty early, like a month after it released. So my first the first time I ever played on a Switch was at my school cafeteria playing my friend's Switch, and we're all like, "Whoa, it's the Switch!" That was what back when the console was brand spanking new. When I first ever downloaded Shazam, I tested it by playing Chop Suey and found it found it less than 2 seconds from just the intro. Well, that is a super duper iconic song. One of those songs you just recognize right away, right when you hear that acoustic intro. So I'm not surprised Shazam would pick up that song pretty much instantly. I've been listening to System of a Down quite a bit. Uh Especially ever since this whole war in Iran started. Been listening to their song Boom a lot. Very Very applicable song for these times. Copyright trolls sometimes claim lost wave songs on Shazam. Well, I've never tried Shazamming a lost song because, well, I mean, I have the rationale of what's the point of Shazamming a lost song if it's, well, lost? If it was able to be picked up on Shazam, then it wouldn't be lost. It's still crazy to me that that song, "Subways of Your Mind," was actually found. That was one of those songs that I thought for sure was just never going to be found. It's too bad that song was found right before election day because the election really stole my attention away from that. It's also crazy that the song was literally called "Subways of Your Mind." That wasn't a misheard lyric. It's also really cool that all the members of that band seem pretty chill, and I don't know if they still had contact with each other before that song was found, but it's cool that they're all still alive and seemingly on good terms. On top of that, Lost Media in general is pretty cool. A lot of rabbit holes to dive into. I mean, that's not something I'm like super, super into. Like every once in a while, I'll watch like a Blame It on George video or something about Lost Media that sounds interesting to learn more about. There's some Lost Media that's kind of crazy to me because I've actually like seen it. um, like I've mentioned before, a Jimmy Neutron special where they were like doing a Mystery Science Theater 3000 parody that I didn't understand back in the day, that I saw back when it aired. That became Lost Media until it wasn't like a few years ago. And also, a lot of Brain Surge episodes are apparently lost. There was some Nickelodeon game show from like what 2008, 2009, somewhere around there till like the very early 2010s. I used to love that game show a lot, and apparently now it's lost media. Well, or at least several episodes are lost media now because Nickelodeon, I guess, there was never a home release of those episodes. I guess Nickelodeon didn't put it online anywhere. They only ever aired it on the channel, and when that show got canceled, I guess Nickelodeon didn't rerun it, and so a lot of the episodes are lost to time. Hopefully, they'll be found eventually. If they haven't already, I don't know. It's nothing I keep up with a whole lot. But that did kind of like bend my mind a bit when I first heard about that because again, that was like really that was a game show I really loved back in the day. I think a lot of also CN Real shows are lost too. I remember hearing about that back when Cartoon Network had that stupid uh block where they'd air live action shows. I used to like some of those shows though. Like the one where the people were destroying shit. Was it called Build and Destroy or some shit? There's another one I really liked, but probably so fucking stupid and goofy now. There was some ghost hunting one, Outsiders or whatever the fuck it was called. It used to scare me as a kid, but I used to like watching that too. I don't think that lasted very long. Have you heard about the biohazard supermarkets? The lore behind them is insane. These people sucked at taking care of businesses. Heard of one supermarket that closed like 30 years ago that was very, very disgusting because the owners just up and abandoned it. And I heard apparently like the footage of inside that supermarket is lost media, but the inside was like so fucking revolting that that's lost media that I'm not interested in ever seeing. Like literally the supermarket was so disgusting. There was like a whole ecosystem thriving inside of it. Oh, I used to like destroy, build, destroy. Oh, yeah, that's what it was called. Destroy, build, destroy. Yeah, I used to like watching that as a kid, and it was not like all the time or anything. The CN Real shit in general, I really didn't care for, aside from a select few shows. But even then, I just wanted the cartoons to go back on. You know, aren't episodes of that one show that with the kid imagining cartoons or some shit, Jimmy's head or whatever? Aren't some episodes of that lost media too? I remember not liking that show even as a kid. Cartoon Network really pushed that show. I remember. I think it was the first live action show on the network, if I remember correctly. That was the show that kind of kickstarted that block. I could be wrong, but I remember like not liking that show even back then when it was airing. And now I think certain episodes are lost to time because Cartoon Network never, I guess, never released a DVD or anything of the show. It got canned, and then Cartoon Network was like, forget this ever existed. There's a Super Mario 64 Screamer video that has been lost media for over a decade now. It was a video involving the L is Real 2401 statue and used the Kayfie zombie screamer. The Kayfie scream isn't that the one with the car going down a hill and it's like all peaceful and then you get this fucking zombie screaming at you? That's a classic. Remember that video really scaring me as a kid. And that was a commercial too. Imagine seeing that during a commercial break. Some of the video has been found in recent years because someone found it in their browser cache files on an old hard drive. That's lucky. I remember it's crazy to think like some people might be in possession of like really sought after lost media, but they have no clue that they do. Mexia supermarket is so goddamn rancid. Yeah, that's what this market was called, Mexia or Mejia, however it's pronounced. Yeah, I remember first hearing about that in a Blame It on George video, talking about how just revolting that store was. I think the owners had like financial issues or some shit, and they just abruptly shut the store down and abandoned it and never bothered cleaning it out. And so, like, obviously that attracted a lot of bugs and shit and animals because of all the rotting food. And again, like a whole bug ecosystem existed inside that store. It's a whole rabbit hole to go down, but apparently, like, the cleanup crew filmed the inside of the store. Again, that is footage I am not interested in ever seeing. As far as I'm concerned, that can stay lost. And I think it got so bad that store was stinking up the whole town it was in. I've been trying to get in shape recently, but my friends keep on calling me Cartman and King Babam. Oh, then fuck your friends then. If you're trying to like improve your build and your friends are still tearing you down, then maybe they're not friends worth keeping. Like, hey, I'm big, and I don't really have much qualms with being big, so it's whatever to me. But my friends aren't like constantly like sometimes they make jokes, and sometimes I joke along with them, so it's all good. They know I don't take much offense, but if they're like maliciously calling me nasty names and it's clear I don't like it, and especially if I was like making attempts to lose weight and they were still teasing me about my weight, then yeah, that would probably be grounds for me to cut them off. Because what kind of friends would continue to tear you down for something you're clearly trying to improve on? I'm just looking at the stream settings. Add stream marker. What the fuck does that mean? Create highlight video. Oh, does this mean I could like make stream clips? Maybe I should like take advantage of that, like do topic based streams. No, no, it's not my thing. I don't know. Maybe if I ever go on like a very good rant in the middle of a stream, maybe I'd clip that, but I don't really see much point otherwise. What do you think about the state of Sonic music nowadays? I don't fucking know. I don't play Sonic games, so yeah, you're asking the wrong person. It's funny. It's like such a huge stereotype for someone with autism to be a huge Sonic fan. And I know it's nothing more than that, a stereotype, but I remember like having this video recommended to me by YouTube called something like "Why are autistic people so fascinated with Sonic?" or something like that. And it was a serious video, like, actually like diving deep into why people with autism tend to really like Sonic, and I forget why exactly, but it's like I was watching the video and I was like, oh no, I have autism and I've never given a single shit about Sonic. I never cared about trains either. There's another big stereotype that I don't fit into. Actually, as a kid, I fucking hated trains because of how loud they were, and big sensory issue for me. What do you think of the McDonald's CEO eating that burger that way? I don't even know who the McDonald's CEO is, and what burger did he eat and how did he eat it? I don't know anything about this. What did he have a Big Mac and he ate it wrong? How do you eat a burger wrong? Speaking of that, I have never met a person who likes a Big Mac more than a Whopper. Every single person I've ever met prefers Whoppers over Big Macs. And I'm not even saying I'm the odd one out because I've had Whoppers and Big Macs before, and I mean, I'm not much of a burger guy. I know, very shocking, but I'm not much of a burger guy, so I don't eat them regularly. But if I were to choose between the two, I'd eat a Whopper. It's just that I've always found that so fascinating. Never met a single person who likes a Big Mac more than a Whopper. Even online, I'm pretty sure every single person. I mean, it's not something I ask, but like if it comes up in like part of a conversation, and they're like, "Oh yeah, well Whoppers are better." I've never played a Sonic game. Ugh, chat moved. I never played a Sonic game, but my biggest hyperfixation game series has always been Pokemon, Animal Crossing, and The Sims. Hyperfixation game series. What would that be for me? I mean, there's no specific game franchise as a whole that I hyperfixate on. Individual games, yes. Resident Evil 4. I know a lot about that game. A lot of useless. I have a lot of useless knowledge when it comes to that game. The OG specifically, or Earthbound. Same with that game as well. The McDonald's CEO kept calling this new burger a product instead of food, and took this small Squidward bite, and the internet made it a big deal recently. Well, I mean, to all these multi-billionaires, their foods are just products that they don't really care about making healthy at all. It's just a lot of like processed shit, so of course they'd refer to it as just a product. And that's what fast food really is, just tasty products that are not good for you in the slightest. I mean, that doesn't stop me if I'm eating fast food every once in a while, and yes, it usually is McDonald's I eat because McDonald's are fucking everywhere. My favorite McDonald's food is usually the nuggets. I usually get like a medium fries, and I get uh, I usually get a 20 piece, but usually almost never finish the 20 piece. If I'm eating with someone else, I usually share it with them. The best chicken nuggets from McDonald's I ever had, though, was when I went to Florida a few years ago. Something about those McNuggets from that specific McDonald's, I don't know, it was just so fucking good. It was fresh, tasted so good. Because usually the McDonald's I live near, both of them, well, all of them pretty much, but there's two that are like right by my house. Almost always reheated, so it doesn't taste that good. I mean, it does taste good, but not like, it tastes better when it's fresh, obviously. I like trains and buses, and I like to photograph them. I like trains. Reminds me of that meme from super duper long ago. Um, yeah, I know there's like a whole community or some shit that's like dedicated to buses and trains. I'm not disparaging that. I mean, if that's their interest, then more power to them. Not harming anyone, but yeah, there are times where I take public transportation and there's someone like filming the bus. That's pretty common here in New York. I personally never really. I mean, I like taking the bus, but it's not like something I'm like super duper into to the point where I like have to film the bus I'm about to board. YouTube for some reason has been recommending me a lot of NYC bus videos, like just amateur videos of people filming buses, but a lot of these videos are from like the 2000s and very early 2010s, so that's kind of interesting to me in the sense that, I get to see these parts of NYC, some that I actually recognize from so long ago. So that was cool to me. Animal Crossing has always been my favorite series because it has been my escape from real world negativity. Yeah, I feel that video games can be an escape for me as well. Usually in the sense of like letting go of negative emotions or even frustration. I just recently finished playing yet again the Resident Evil 4 remake. I still haven't played the latest Resident Evil, Requiem, that recently came out. I might get that soon. It might be a birthday gift, I don't know, but we'll see. Otherwise, I'll probably get the game myself because it's a new Resident Evil game. Of course, I have to play it. My favorite franchise of all time. Anyway, um, recently played the remake again, and I noticed on certain like days where like where my aggression is like where my irritability is pretty high. Killing Ganados or zealots or the island soldiers was kind of cathartic. People in these transit communities will have arguments over which subway line slash bus route is better. It really gets that serious. Well, I mean, if that's what they're passionate about, if that's what they're passionate about, then whatever. Recently, a bus that goes by my house was rerouted in a pretty shitty way because it's so inconvenient now for me and my uncle, who also takes public transit. Thank you, MTA. Next month is the 25th anniversary of the original Animal Crossing in Japan, first released on the Nintendo 64 on April 14th, 2001. I keep forgetting that Animal Crossing, the first Animal Crossing, is technically an N64 game because here in the States it never got released on the N64, only on the GameCube. There were some GameCube games that were supposed to be N64 games originally, but the games were like too ambitious or too demanding for the N64. Like, I'm pretty sure Eternal Darkness was supposed to be an N64 game originally, but with all the with all the crazy sanity effects in that game that are fucking excellent, by the way, very underrated horror game. I don't think the N64 was able to handle a lot of that, so development was shifted over to the GameCube. And Resident Evil Zero, I'm pretty sure, was also originally developed for the GameCube. No, it came out on the GameCube. Originally developed for the N64. I wonder how Mother 3 would have turned out if it actually did end up releasing on the N64. I'm kind of glad though it came out on the GBA since obviously N64 graphics really haven't aged well at all compared to the 2D of the three of Mother 1, 2, and the Mother 3 we ended up getting. And plus, I heard that game was supposed to be like super ambitious and also very a lot longer than the Mother 3 we actually ended up getting. Makes me think maybe they cut out a lot of chaff that would have otherwise been in the N64 version and only put in like the most crucial and best bits of the story in the GBA version. So maybe we were better off with Mother 3 being a GBA game. Who knows? There's also an elevator community on YouTube where they film elevators. There's a community for everything online. Some stuff you think is super duper niche that no one would have any interest in, but turns out there's like a whole fucking community. Like, I remember when I first started using white noise videos to sleep. Like I've said before, I use the sound of a 10-hour loop of a fan to sleep. that I have blasting through my Alexa. And I remember a couple of times I would go into the comments under the video curious to see what the comments were saying. And that's when I found out there's a fan community on YouTube, like literally about fans. I was like, wow, I didn't know that existed. But I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. I'm a transit nerd myself, and yes, they made a lot of changes to with the buses and called it the Queen's Bus redesign. Yes, and I fucking hate it. And my uncle. He actually did go to like this little event that the MTA was holding where people could address their concerns with the new bus routing, but they didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit about anyone's complaints or his. Happy birthday, Animal Crossing. Yes, happy early birthday to Animal Crossing. And hey, more importantly, happy early birthday to me. My birthday is exactly a week from now. I'm turning 25. The big 2-5, quarter of a century old almost. Oof. Uh, I think that's where a lot of my negative emotions are coming from, the fact that I'm turning 25 so soon. And these feelings of, not accomplishing much or not accomplishing as much as I should have by this point. My therapist called it, and he said this is actually a somewhat common phenomenon, a quarter life crisis. Maybe that's what I'm going through. The final boss from Earthbound gave me nightmares. I first beat Earthbound when I was 12, when it released on the Wii U's Virtual Console in 2013. Well, Gygas didn't give me nightmares, but at the same time, I was still like, "What the fuck?" When I first fought him. Thankfully, that was never spoiled for me. I did know going in that Earthbound gets really fucking dark in the final act, but I still had no idea what the final boss was like. I love the final act of Earthbound after Magic Camp when everything gets dark and serious. One that being overrun by Gygas's army, the Cave of the Past, Ness and his party having to travel back in time in robot bodies, uncertain if they'll come back alive. Gygas. Great end to the game. The Japanese GameCube version of Animal Crossing came out a few months later in 2001, and there was a service to transfer your character and town to the GameCube version. Oh, I thought Japan only got the N64 version. I didn't know they also got their own GameCube version. Anyway, that's the bottom of the chat, and I have been streaming for over 2 hours, and my voice hurts, so you know what that means. Time for me to wrap up the stream finally. Yeah, I don't really have much to say besides what I usually say at the end here. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to those who were here earlier but had to leave, but still, your presence was appreciated. And this stream was a lot of fun. Yeah, and I'll stream sometime in April, I assume. I don't know when in April, but I can guarantee you it'll be a Friday. And oh, yeah, Friday the 13th. I never pass up an opportunity to stream. Well, actually, no, that might be a lie. I'm sure there are plenty of Friday the 13th I haven't streamed on, but hey, it's still cool nonetheless that I streamed on a Friday the 13th, I guess. Ooh, spooky. Anyway, bye.